Hey guys, welcome to this video lecture. In this video, we're going to see how to install MongoDB on Ubuntu 22.04. Now, MongoDB is a popular open source and cross-platform database that is widely used for developing high-performance and scalable applications. As a NoSQL database server, MongoDB is mostly used for building web and mobile applications that involve or handle large volumes of rapidly changing unstructured data. At the time of making this video, the most current stable release is MongoDB 7.0, and it comes with numerous enhancements and improvements. Now, to get started, what you need is to have an instance of Ubuntu 22.04. Now with us here, we already have an instance deployed on Cherry Servers. Now Cherry Servers is one of the leading cloud services provider that lets you deploy your production workloads to the cloud. It lets you deploy instant dedicated servers for your high-end applications or virtual servers for small to medium workloads. All right. Now, to get started, we are going to install MongoDB 7.0 Community Edition, which is completely free to download and use. All right, so now we're going to head over to the main download page. Okay, now, so here we are at the MongoDB installation page. So now the first step is to import the GPG key. All right. Now, before we do so, we need to install a couple of packages, as you can see here. So now I'm going to begin by installing the prerequisite packages. So I'm going to copy this command and I'm going to paste it on my command line here and press enter. Okay. And as you can see, we already have the packages installed. All right. Now, the next step is to now import the MongoDB public GPG key. So once again, I'm going to copy this command here and back to my terminal. I'm going to paste it and press enter. All right, so the GPG key is in place. All right, now the next step is to create, or rather to add a repository for MongoDB on our system. Okay, so this command here is going to add the repository for MongoDB on our Ubuntu system. So now I'm going to copy this command as well and I'm going to paste it here and press enter. All right, so this adds a sources list file for MongoDB in a directory. So I'm going to verify this by running ls-l with the -l option. So the sources list file was added to this directory etc apt sources.list.d. So when I hit enter, I can see an entry here for MongoDB. All right, version 7.0. So this confirms that the sources list file was added. Okay, next. Now, after adding the sources list file, I'm going to update the local package index by running the command sudo apt update. So here, I'm going to run the command sudo apt update. Then I'm going to hit enter. So this will refresh the local package index. All right. Now, finally, to install MongoDB, I'm going to copy and run this command here. All right. So I'm going to hit enter. So this installs a ton of packages, including the MongoDB database server and the Mongo shell alongside other packages. So these can take quite some time, so just be patient as the installation goes on. So on your screen, you can see various packages being installed. So you might come across the this notification about the availability of a new kernel. So I'm going to just hit enter. Then here I'm going to just accept the defaults. So I'm going to press enter. So the installation is almost complete. So just give it a few seconds. Right, so we are done. The installation of MongoDB is now complete. Now the next step is to confirm the version of MongoDB installed, and this you can do easily by running the command mongod then version and press enter. And there you can see on your terminal this is some bunch of information confirming the installation of MongoDB. So here we have installed MongoDB version 7.0.2. all right, so we are on the right step. Now the next step, we are going to see how you can start and enable MongoDB service. So see you in the next step. Now, having successfully installed MongoDB, the next step is to start and manage the MongoDB service. Now I'm going to clear the terminal. Now by default, the MongoDB service is normally inactive upon installation, and we can confirm this by running the command sudo systemctl status mongod, then hit enter. So from the output, you can see that MongoDB is inactive. Now to start MongoDB service, on your command line, run the command sudo systemctl start mongod, then hit enter. Okay, now to confirm that the MongoDB service is running, run the command sudo systemctl status mongod. Okay, so from the output you can see that the MongoDB service is up and running. Okay, the other way you can confirm that MongoDB is running is by checking the port that it's listening on. Now by default, MongoDB listens on TCP port 270.17. Okay, now we can do so by running the command sudo ss-pn ltu, and then we search for port 270.17, then hit enter. All right, so you can see from the terminal that MongoDB is listening on localhost port 270.17. Great, so up to there we are doing fine. We have installed MongoDB. Probably the next thing you can do is to enable MongoDB to start on system startup or upon a reboot, and you can do so by running the command sudo systemctl enable mongod, then press enter. Great, so this ensures that MongoDB will always start when a system is rebooted or restarted. All right, so we have successfully installed and configured MongoDB to start on boot. Now in the next section, we're going to create a MongoDB database and user. So see you in the next step. In this section, we're going to look at how you can create a MongoDB database and user. Now, to connect to the MongoDB database, we use a client tool known as Mongo Shell. Okay, so on the terminal, run the command mongo, then sh. So this is the command line client that is used to connect and configure the MongoDB server. Okay, so hit enter. So on your screen, this is what you're gonna see. So directly below the command, you're going to see some information regarding the Mongo shell. So here you can see some bunch of info. So for example, you can see we are using the Mongo shell version 2.0.1. So directly below we get a notification that there is a newer version of Mongo shell, which is version 2.0.2, that's available for download in this URL. Okay, so directly below this you see some startup warnings when booting. So don't worry about this for now. These are generated because at the moment we haven't yet configured authentication, which we will later on cover along this video tutorial. Okay, so now we're going to see some few operations. So to check the existing databases, run the command show dbs and hit enter. So this lists the pre-installed databases, or the databases that come with the installation. So here you can see we have 3 databases. We have admin, config, and local. Okay, now let me clear the screen. So I'm going to press Ctrl L on my keyboard to clear the screen. Okay, now we're going to create a database and navigate into it. So to create a database, use the use command like that, and then specify the database name. So here we're going to specify employees as our database name. So employees like that, then hit enter. So when you hit enter, you're going to get this output switched to DB, then the database name. So in this case, employees. Okay, so now we are currently in the employees database. All right, so to confirm this, you can also run the command db. Okay, so the output here confirms that indeed we are in the employees database. Great. Okay, so now MongoDB provides various shell methods for managing your database. Okay, so let's now focus on how you can create a database user called Cherry with read and write roles on the employees database. Okay, now to do so, I'm going to use the command syntax here, db.createUser. So I'm going to copy this and I'm going to paste it here. All right, so in this syntax, the user parameter specifies the name of the database user. So in this case, it's Cherry. Then the pwd parameter specifies the password. So here, ensure that you provide a strong password. So this is just a placeholder. So here for the roles, we are assigning the user read and write role on the employees database. All right, so once you're done, hit enter, and this will be the output if all goes well. All right, so we have successfully created the database user. So you can list the users created using the command db.getUsers parentheses, then followed by a semicolon, then hit enter. Okay, so from the output, you can see the information about the database users. So for example, here you can see the ID. So we have the database name followed by the database user. Okay, so here you can see the users, the user, which is Cherry, and the database, which is employees. And here you can see that we have assigned read and write roles on the database employees. All right, so we are doing good. Alternatively, you can run the command show users. So run show users. Okay, and you'll get the same output as the db.getUsers command. All right. Okay, so now if you want to delete the user, you can use the db.drop user method. So to do so, just simply run the command db.drop user, then open parentheses, close parentheses. Then here you're gonna specify the name of the user, which is Cherry, inside double quotation marks. Then you're going to open the curly braces like that. So here type W, then majority, close the quotation marks, comma, W time out, full colon 4000. Okay, so hit enter. All right, so to confirm that the user has been deleted, once again you can run the command show users, and you see we don't have any users in the database. Alternatively, you can run the previous command, which is db.getUsers. Okay, so in both cases you can see that we don't have any users. All right, okay, so also another thing you can do is to drop the database or delete the database. Okay, so to do so, let me clear the screen. So to delete the database employees, what you can do, you can use the method db.drop database, okay, followed by the parentheses and semicolon. So hit enter, and you can see dropped database employees. So once again, if you run the command show dbs to display the databases that exist in the database server, you're only going to get the original 3 databases. All right, okay, so now we can now safely exit the shell. So to do so, just run the command exit, and this will exit from the MongoDB shell to your normal terminal prompt. Okay, so in the next section we are going to see how to secure MongoDB on Ubuntu, and by this we mean that we're going to demonstrate how you can create or configure authentication to make your database more secure. All right, so see you in the next section. As we saw earlier, authentication is not enabled by default on MongoDB. So this implies that any user with access to the database server can pretty much do anything they want. Now, this is a vulnerability that can cause a serious breach, and we don't want this to happen. So which is why it's important to secure your MongoDB instance by configuring authentication. Okay, now moving forward, we are going to first access the MongoDB server. So once again, on the shell, run the command, use the Mongo shell client to access the MongoDB shell. So hit enter. Okay, now moving on, what you need is to connect or switch to the admin database, and to do so, run the command use admin and press enter. Okay, so you can see that we have switched to the admin database. Okay, now from here we're going to create a database user. Okay, so we're going to use these lines of code here. Okay, so I'm going to copy this and paste it on the shell. All right, so let's see what this does line by line. So here you can see that we have specified the admin user. So the name of the admin user in this case is admin cherry. Okay. Now the next line specifies or prompts you for the administrative user's password. So once you press enter, you're going to be prompted to provide the admin user's password. Okay. Now the last line here, roles, specifies the roles that will be assigned to the database. Okay, so here we can see that the administrative user has been granted read and write roles. Okay, now since this role is defined in the admin database, now the admin user as a result can read and modify all the databases in the database cluster. Okay, so now you can hit enter. So here you'll be prompted for a password. So I'm going to provide my own password here. Hit enter. Okay. So you can see we have created a database user successfully. All right. So now we're going to exit. So I'm going to run the exit command to exit from the Mongo shell. Okay. So we are back on our terminal. Now with the administrative user in place, the next step is to enable authentication in the default MongoDB configuration file. So we're going to access it, okay, using the Vim command line editor. So the path is etc then mongod, okay, like this, .conf. Hit enter. Okay, now you need to scroll down to the security section. Okay, so here I'm going to search for security and I'm going to press enter. So this is the line that we are looking for, security. So I'm going to uncomment this. All right, so here I'm going to add a full colon, then I'm going to press a full colon like that, then I'm going to press enter, then I'm going to ident it. Okay, then I'm going to add the authorization parameter and I'm going to set this to enabled. Okay, so this is how it should look like on your case. Okay, so now save the changes to the configuration file and quit. Okay, now to effect the changes made, we're going to restart the MongoDB server, and to do so simply run the command sudo systemctl restart mongod. I've made a mistake here. So this is systemctl like that. Then hit enter. Okay, now let's verify that MongoDB is running. So sudo systemctl status mongod, and you can see MongoDB is running as expected. All right. So now we are going to log in back to our server. So once again, I'm going to invoke the Mongo shell like that, and I'm going to press enter. So here you can see that the warnings or the startup warnings have disappeared, and this is because we have configured authentication. Okay, now let's list the databases on our database server. So on the command line, run the command show dbs. And in this case, in this instance, you can see that you get an error, and we see that command list databases requires authentication. Okay, now we can't move any further. So now we need to exit first and connect to the database using authentication. Okay, now to do so, you're going to invoke the Mongo shell client tool like that. Then you're going to specify the admin user that we created. So in this case, it was admin cherry. Okay. Then we are going to pass the -p option like that. And then we're going to specify authentication database. Then the database, the admin database name, which is admin. Okay, then I'm going to hit enter. So here I'll be prompted for the password. So I'm going to provide the password to the admin user, admin cherry, and then I'm going to hit enter. And great. So here we have connected to the MongoDB server via authentication. Now we can proceed and list the databases. So we can successfully run the command show dbs. And this time around, you can see that we have been able to list the databases. Okay, now in the next step, we're going to see how you can configure MongoDB for remote access. So see you in the next step. By default, MongoDB is set to be accessed locally on the same server it was installed on. Now, in order to enable remote access, we must make changes to the default MongoDB configuration file. And to do so, we are going to use our preferred text editor. So in this case, we're going to use Vim, then followed by the main configuration file for MongoDB, which is mongod.conf. Hit enter. Now this configuration file contains a myriad of settings, such as settings for database configuration, logging, networking, and process management. Now our concern is to allow remote access. So now what you need to do is you need to navigate to the network interfaces section, which you can see here. All right, so this section has two main parameters. We have the port, so this specifies the port that MongoDB is listening on. So in this case, it's port 27017, which is the default port. And then here we have the bind IP parameter, which specifies the IP address that MongoDB listens on. So here you can see that by default, this is set to the loopback address. So this means that MongoDB can only accept connections coming from the server. All right. Now to enable remote connections, what you're going to do is we are going to add the IP address of our server. So what you're going to do, we are going to put a comma, and then we're going to specify our MongoDB server's address, which in this case is 173.82.232 .227.89. all right, so that's our server's IP address. All right, so now we are going to close the configuration file. So we're going to save the changes. All right, and then we're going to exit the configuration file. All right. Okay, so now in order to persist the changes, or for the changes to come into effect, we need to restart MongoDB. So on your command line, run the command systemctl restart MongoDB, like that. Okay. Additionally, you can check the status just to confirm that everything went well and that MongoDB is running as expected. So run the command sudo systemctl status MongoDB. So as you can see, MongoDB is running as expected. All right. So now, in case you have UFW enabled, what you're going to do is we are going to allow a specific port and a specific IP. So now what you're going to do is we are going to allow our remote system to access our server. So run the command sudo ufw allow from. So here we're going to specify the remote system. So it's in this case it's 173.82.232.55. okay, now to any port, and then here you're going to specify the MongoDB port, okay, like that. All right, so hit enter. Okay, as you can see, rules have been updated. Then we need to reload the firewall. So run the command sudo ufw reload. Okay, you can see that the firewall is not enabled, so we're going to enable the firewall. So sudo ufw enable. All right, so here going to press Y. So here you can see firewall is active and enabled. So now we're going to reload the firewall, okay, to effect the changes. So sudo ufw reload. Okay, now let's check the firewall status. So sudo ufw status, so hit enter. Okay, so you can see that this rule has been allowed on the firewall. All right, so now in the next step we're going to see how you can access MongoDB remotely from the server that we have allowed access to MongoDB server. All right, so see you shortly in the next step. So here we are at our remote system. Now we're going to try and initiate a remote connection to our MongoDB server. Now there are a couple of ways of doing this. And in this step, we're going to use the netcat utility to initiate a TCP connection to port 27017, which is a default MongoDB port. All right. Now to do so, first you need to ensure that netcat is installed. So on the command line, run the command sudo apt install netcat. So hit enter. Then provide your password. So as you can see, netcat is already installed and it's already in its newest version. All right, now before logging on to the remote MongoDB server, we're going to try and establish a connection via the default port. So on the command line, run the command nc-z then followed by the MongoDB server IP address. So that's 173.82.227.89. okay, then followed by the MongoDB port like that, and hit enter. Great, so here you can see that connection to this address, which is a MongoDB server's IP, has succeeded. All right, so now what you're going to do next is we are going to log into our MongoDB shell remotely. But before we do so, we need to make sure that the version of the Mongo shell we're using is the same as the version of the Mongo shell on the server side. So earlier on we saw that the latest version is 2.0.2. So now let's confirm this side. Okay, so here you can see that we have the same version on the client as on the server. All right, so now we can go ahead and log in remotely. So on your command line, invoke the MongoDB shell like that. Now open the quotation mark. So this will be MongoDB full colon, then the username, which is the admin user. So this is admin cherry, as we configured earlier on in our previous steps. So now the remote IP, which is the MongoDB server IP address, so 173.82.227.89. all right, then a colon, then the server, then the port, which is 27017. Okay, then finally terminate the command with the quotation mark like that. So this is the syntax that you're going to use to connect remotely. So hit enter. Now you're going to be prompted for the admin user's password. So now you're going to provide the password. So I'm going to provide the password I configured with. Then I'm gonna press enter, and voila, there you go. So we have successfully connected to the remote MongoDB server from a remote client, and as you can see, we are on the server. So that's how you go about configuring a remote connection and accessing the MongoDB server remotely from a remote system. Alright, now in our last step, we're going to see how to use MongoDB and how to work with the MongoDB database. And we're going to perform different database operations such as inserting data, retrieving data, updating and deleting records from the MongoDB database. So see you in the next step. So far, we have successfully installed and configured MongoDB database server and also ensured that we have remote access to the database. Now in this last section, we're going to explore various ways that you can use the database. So there are a couple of database operations that you can carry out in MongoDB. For example, you can create records, retrieve, update, and delete them from a database. So first of all, we're going to check how you're going to insert data. And to do this, first of all, we're going to log into our database. So once again, I'm going to invoke the Mongo shell command. Then I'll specify the admin user. So here we have admin cherry -p. Then I'm going to specify authentication. The authentication database. So here I'm going to specify the admin database. All right, so I'm gonna hit enter. I'm going to provide my password. I'll hit enter, and here we go. We have accessed the MongoDB shell. Now in MongoDB, records are kept in documents and documents are stored in collections. So now first of all we're going to do is we're going to connect to the employees database. So I'm going to run the command use employees. Alright, so you can see we're in the employees database. Now here we're going to create a collection called staff, and later we're going to add a document that contains an employee's user data. So here I'm going to run the command db.staff. So staff is the name of the collection. Then I'm going to call the insert one method like that. So I'm going to open the bracket and also include the open curly braces. So here the first parameter is name. So let's call our user Alice like that. So Alice is 25 years of age and she comes from London. So here I'm going to specify the city as London. So as you can see, the data is in form of the key value pairs. All right. So let's now specify her marriage status. So married, this will take a Boolean value of true. Okay, then finally we're going to specify her hobbies. All right, so this comes in form of a list. So her first hobby is traveling. All right. Alice also loves swimming. And lastly, she also enjoys cooking. All right, so now you're going to close using the parentheses and also the brackets. Okay, so that is the first document. So we have the name, the age, the city, her marriage status, and the hobbies. So check your syntax and ensure it's correct. So now I'm going to press enter. All right, so here you can see that we have inserted an object. All right, so now to retrieve the data or view the documents inside the collection, simply run the command. So I'm going to clear the screen. So to retrieve the data, I'm going to run the command db.staff.find, open and close parentheses, hit enter, and there you go. So the command populates the document that we have just inserted. So here we have the document, we have the object ID, we have the name, the age, the city, the marriage status, and the hobbies of the user. All right, so now let's try to add a few more documents and run a few queries on the collection. So in this case, now we're going to add another document. I'm going to add another document. So here, so I'm going to edit this command. So this time around, we have a name. We have a user called Bob. So Bob is 29 years of age. And he comes from a city called Liverpool. Bob is not married, he's single. So here we change this to false. All right, so let's check out the hobbies of Bob. So Bob loves the first hobby. So Bob loves hiking. So you're going to change this to hiking. He loves watching movies. And lastly, he enjoys driving. So here we're going to change this to driving. All right, so now I'm gonna press enter. All right, so you can see we have added another object. Okay. Now let's also insert another document. So here we're going to have a user called Winnie. So I'm going to change this to Winnie. And Winnie is 25 years of age. Same as Alice. All right, so Winnie is from Bristol. So here I'll specify Bristol. Winnie is married. So here we're going to set this to true. And her hobbies include playing chess. So here we're going to specify playing chess. She also loves surfing. And lastly, she enjoys painting. So here we're going to specify painting. printing, like that, and press enter. Good. So now we have added 3 documents to our staff collection. All right, so now let's list all the documents. So once again, run the command db.staff.find, open and close the parentheses or brackets. So as you can see now, we have 3 documents, each with different data. So we have Alice, we have Bob, and we have Winnie. So this confirms that we have successfully added our documents. All right, moving on, we have seen how to display all the documents. Now you can decide to filter the records that you want. Okay, so for example, we can find the employees that are married, so we can filter out using the command db.staff.find. Then inside the brackets, we can specify the key value pair. So for example, to find the employees that are married, you're going to specify married and then set the value to true. Okay, then I'm going to press enter. Sorry, we have a syntax issue. Oh yeah, so here I'm going to specify db.staff.find. Then I'll open the brackets, open the parentheses, then I'm going to specify the key value pair. So here married is true. Then I'm going to close the parentheses and the bracket as well. So I'm going to press enter. Okay, so here we can see we have two users that are married. We have Alice and we have Winnie. All right. Okay, so now let's see if we can get the users that are not married. So here we'll change this to false. Then I'll press enter. So you can see that in this case we have only one user who is not married, and that happens to be Bob. All right, so that's how you can query the objects, and also you can filter out the users, okay, or data based on various criteria. Okay, so for example, you can see let's see if we can see the users who are 25 years of age. So here we can also specify age 25, then hit enter, and you can see we have Alice and Winnie who are both 25 years of age. Okay, so now what you're going to do, we're going to see how you can update the data. Okay, so here what you can do, you use the update method. All right, so in this example we're going to demonstrate how to change the name of Bob to Robert. Okay, so to do that, we're going to invoke db.staff then .update method. Okay, so once again I'm going to open the bracket and the parentheses. So we have the name Bob, and we are changing this to Robert. So we're going to open another parenthesis here, then we have the $sign set full colon, then open another parenthesis. So we have name, so this will be the new name, Robert, like that. Then we'll close the parentheses like that, and the bracket. Okay, so here we're changing the name from Bob to Robert. Okay, so I'm gonna press enter. Okay, so you can see acknowledged, true. Okay, so you can now search for Robert. So once again, you can run the command db.staff.find. so here we are looking for a user called Robert. And here we go. So you can see that Bob has been changed to Robert. And if you try to search Bob, you get an error. So let's see if we try to search Bob, what happens. So I'm gonna hit enter. So here we find no data that will be displayed, simply because we have changed the name from Bob to Robert. All right. So now lastly, let's see how you can delete data. Now the MongoDB shell provides two methods for doing this. There is the delete one and the delete many methods. Okay, so suppose you want to delete Robert's record. To do so, what you need to do is to run the command db.staff. Now here we're going to use the delete one method like that. So we're going to open the parentheses and the curly braces, then we'll specify the name Robert like that. Close the curly braces, close the parentheses, then I'll hit enter. So you can see the record has been deleted. Okay, now to verify this, you can use the find method. So find, so here you see we now have two documents, since the document containing the user Robert has been deleted. All right, now the delete many method deletes multiple documents from a collection. All right, so before we move forward, I would like to point out something. When you're using the delete many, it's best if you can, it's best to remove a record using the ID value or the object ID value, which is here. So instead of specifying the name, the best way is to specify the object ID. And the reason for this is because sometimes you may have multiple records bearing the same name, Robert. Okay, so when you specify the name, you might affect another record, or you may affect another document containing the same name. All right, so now for example, now let's just create another record. Okay, so here I'm going to clear the screen. So to demonstrate this, I'm going to create another record. So let's have I'm going to scroll up, and let's create Bob again. So I'm going to hit enter. All right, so this is the object ID of the user called Bob. Okay, so let's assume you want to delete Bob. So we have said that the best way or the best approach is to use the object ID. So to do so, you run the command db.staff like that, then delete one method, So open the parentheses, open curly braces. So here you're going to specify the ID. So you're going to copy all of this. So I'm going to copy and I'm going to paste it here like that. Okay, then I'm going to close the parentheses and sorry, the curly braces and the parentheses. Okay, so now I'm going to press enter. All right, so you can see we have successfully deleted the user or the document using the object ID. So this is the most preferred way, okay, since every object has a specific or as a special object ID. All right, so now to delete many records, so what you can do is to, for example, if you want to delete records whereby the users are married, so what you can do, you can run the command db.staff.delete many. So here you're using the delete many method where we have the multiple documents that are similar. So here I'm going to open the parentheses, curly braces, so married. So here we are deleting all the records of the documents where users are married. Okay, so here you can see we have deleted 2 records. Okay, and you can confirm this by db.staff.find. All right, so we have deleted the remaining documents, so we have none at the moment. All right, okay, so now if you want to delete all the documents in the collection without any arguments, what you're going to do is to run the command db.staff.delete many, like that. Open parentheses, open curly braces, without any arguments. Okay, so here you can see the command executed successfully. All right, and since we didn't have any records, so this will indicate 0 for now. So let's create, to demonstrate this or to get a clear picture of this, we're going to once again create 2 records. So here let's create Bob again. Okay, and let's also create another user. So I'm going to scroll up. So here we have Winnie. All right, so db.staff.find, we have 2 records. Okay, now to delete all of them, as you've seen, so run db.staff.delete many, like that. So hit enter. So you can see the deleted count. So we have deleted 2 records. So if we check again, db.staff.find, so nothing will be displayed because we have deleted all the documents. So that's about it for this lecture. We have reached the end. Thank you for coming all this long or this way. So in this tutorial, we have demonstrated or shown you how to install MongoDB on Ubuntu 22.04 and how to use some of the operations in managing the MongoDB database. So that's it for this lecture. Thank you for coming this far. Please leave a like, smash the subscribe button, and share this with your family and friends. So see you in the next video.